Welcome to the United States Constitutional Patriots Radio. This is our first broadcast, and I will turn it over to our host, Johnny. Johnny, go ahead.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the show. My name's Johnny, and we are going to bring you news that is not handled through the mainstream. We're going to have discussions on situations. We're going to be talking about pretty much everything that's going on. Tonight's show, we're going to concentrate on what just happened between President Trump and Russia. I'm going to introduce Chuck. He is our main announcer. He will bring you up on what is on, and later on in the show, we will have more information on other things that's going on around the country. We have several guests tonight, and I'm going to turn this over to you, Chuck. And again, welcome to the True News of United Constitutional Patriot Radio. And thank you for joining us.
Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is our inaugural test of the United Constitutional Patriot, and we are just in the process, of course, of learning the system here and getting the bugs worked out. So we ask you to please with us as we do those things. As a matter of fact, Johnny, if you would help Trump 2020 and Chad with how to get to YouTube, why that would be helpful, because they're typing away down there. But once again, thank you for joining us this evening. And this is our inaugural broadcast. We're learning the ropes here and getting the bugs worked out, and you know, we've got everybody that's going to be on working the shows with us in here, and everything's up and running. Why, we'll be putting on hopefully a good program for you, so we can keep you informed on in our world today, what's going on in our country today. There are good things going on, and I'm going to cover a couple of things tonight. I don't have a big deal this evening. I've got a couple of items here that I'm going to cover. One is what Johnny was talking about, meeting between President Trump and Vladimir Putin. Have some very interesting things happening there. But to open up here, before to that, I've got another little I want to cover with you. It apparently had a historic 9-0 decision. United States Supreme Court, and it says, the article that I'm reading says, historic 9-0 decision, Supreme Court just shredded the Democrats. Huge. The Supreme Court gets it right, and in a rarely leveling, not a historic 9-0 decision, SCOTUS just sidestepped two major cases concerning gerrymandering. Okay, the Democrats are wanting to play around, wanting to do some gerrymandering, do some election rigging, if you will. Election? Okay, this allows controversial district maps to and be used in this fall's midterm elections just the way they are. That's great news for Republicans, and Democrats are incensed over it. Set on redistricting voting districts, gerrymandering. They will literally do anything to steal an election, which includes gerrymandering the dead vote and recruiting illegal aliens and refugees to vote. do their favorite tricks. You have to ask yourself if the Democrats are willing to legally and unethically unseat a sitting president. He is a Republican and they don't like him. Go to rig an election as far as they can possibly get away with. Sometimes with the help of government agencies. They bend the rules just as far as they can and planned to do so in midterms as well. It was more of a drip. And now this. Things are just not looking good for the election, for the leftists in the upcoming election. This decision is a huge one. From SCOTUS, CNN reported the Supreme Court on Monday sidestepped two major cases concerning partisan gerrymandering, allowing controversial district maps to stand and be used in this fall's midterm elections. A 9-0 ruling. Chief Justice John Roberts in a Wisconsin case is a blow to Democrats who argue the Republican-drawn maps prevented fair and effective representation by diluting voters' influence and penalizing voters based on their political beliefs. Well, of course, that's not exactly true. However, what the Supreme Court did for us is they stopped us from doing more election rigging so that they could try to steal another election. Very, very good news for the upcoming midterm elections. Before, and I will say it again, it looks like it may well be and probably will be a veritable bloodbath for the Democrats in this coming election, which, as far as I'm concerned, is a good thing. Now, on to the big news. This is happened, or what just occurred recently in now, as most of you know, recently President Trump took a trip to Europe with NATO and got some good work done there with NATO and NATO members to get on board and pay their fair share. In other words, you know, the United States has been paying the vast majority of the money that goes to NATO, and those that we're helping to protect aren't paying their fair share. So President Trump did some very good work on that. I guess got a lot of them on board, so we'll see how that goes. But after his visit with NATO, he then traveled, of course, to and visited with the British government there and the Queen and so on, and then made a side trip to Scotland where his mother was born. Then came the big one, Helsinki, Finland, where he was going to have a meeting with Russian President Vladimir Putin. Now that is, while the president was, of course, in Brussels, Belgium, speaking to NATO, and in England, and what have you, the deep state folks spent like 3 or 4 days, and you probably saw it in the news, and so on and so forth. They spent 3 or 4 days outright demanding that President Trump cancel that meeting with Vladimir Putin and not even have it, not even go. For some reason or other, they didn't want the president to have that meeting. Something was terrifying them. They were flipping out. Well, I'm about to share with you some of what that something was. Was that the president actually has something on them, okay, that they didn't want getting out. They were worried about what President Putin might have to give to President Trump. if you saw any of the coverage of the president's trip when he flew to Helsinki, Finland, things occurred right in front of us. Okay? Now, there were some things that happened during the closed-door meeting that we, at this time, are not divulged, but there were some interesting things that happened right in front of the world. Ago, and I have mentioned on broadcasts that we've done before, just a short time ago, posted and said, July 2018, the month the world found out the truth. And before that, there was another Q post where Q posted and said, on the ball. And nobody really understood that. That was right in the middle of a Q post. And nobody at that point actually understood what he meant. Understand what he meant. Okay? So, the president gets to Finland. He comes down off the plane. The moment that he stepped down off of the steps that he was coming down, began to happen. Four or five dignitaries that were waiting to, and then you had a long line of guys in military uniform, all right, that they were there to greet the president. Now, whenever he travels to foreign countries, they all usually do that. The Finnish military uniform, obviously. But there were 3 or 4, maybe 5 dignitaries that were there to shake hands with him as well. So he steps down off the steps, on him, and talks to him for a couple of minutes. Steps to his left to shake hands. That was next to him. The moment he finished shaking hands with this lady, the first guy that the president shook hands with placed something in the president's right hand. Now, that could have been a thumb drive. It could have been something to that effect. Because we don't know exactly what it was. But he placed something in the president's right hand. The president then immediately shifted that to his left hand and very quickly placed it in his left-hand coat pocket. Be as inconspicuous as he could. He did it as quickly as he could. Be as inconspicuous as he could. But this gentleman placed something in the president's hand and he placed it in his pocket. Now, we had the actual meeting with Vladimir Putin. Now the president out and they speak to the press for a few minutes. They give an opening statement. They shake hands and they give an opening statement before they go into another room for their private closed-door meeting. When they come out of that meeting, and again, as I said, there were some things that happened in there that were not
what?
Do you at this point? But when they come out from that meeting, because now they hold their press conference, and if you go to YouTube, you can find the full video of that press conference, and it ran about 42, 45 minutes or so. You will hear the president talking about the media, okay? The news media just would not let it go. They just kept asking questions about questions. They just kept asking questions about the Russian collusion thing, basically because that's all they've got. Would not let it go. So the president stood there and talked about some of the evidence that they've got. Okay, where are talk about where are the servers? Peter Strzok's testimony, which he said was an absolute disgrace to the nation. talked about where are the servers, where's the DNC server, where's Hillary's private email server with the 33,000 emails. And there was a third server that he asked about. Where was that server? Okay. And so on. Vladimir Putin, that dropped the absolute bomb on him, the fact, and he even named that did the funneling of the money, but he dropped a bomb when he exposed the fact $1.5 billion in Russian money left the country, and $400 million of that Russian money wound up in Hillary Clinton's campaign coffers, and he even named the name of the guy that funneled that money into her coffers. Now, that's been all over Twitter since that happened, and what have you, but he even named the name of the guy that did that. This was a major bombshell. That Hillary Clinton benefited from about $400 million in illegal Russian, if you will, campaign funds. Or it came out of that $1.5 billion that somehow left the country. Okay? And then the Russian president also, he offered to allow Mueller, any of his staff that he wanted to bring with him, to Russia and work Putin's people in questioning the 12 people that they supposedly indicted. Well, they're not going to touch that, because obviously that the 12 or 13 people that were indicted, it's a crock. You know it, because that was something that they did just immediately. Strzok's testimony, and right before the president's meeting with Mr. Putin, it was done for show. Okay, offered to allow them to do that, and in exchange, he wants to question certain people in our intelligence community. Who Mr. Putin said were involved in helping funnel that money into Hillary's campaign coffers. He wants to question them about how that money, of course, as you can imagine, they're not touching it. But then the most interesting thing that came out of it, okay, and that was that at some point you probably saw President Putin, a soccer ball. And I am, honey, where is that you used to walk on the dough? Find a notebook that I wrote some money. It was more than a soccer ball. It was one of soccer balls that they actually used in the World Cup. That soccer ball has a chip in it. Oh, wonderful. Soccer ball has a chip in it that allows you to recover information using your smartphone. So, whatever it was that was handed to the president when he first got off the plane. Then we have the chip that was inside the soccer ball. We believe that between that, it is believed that the president now has the servers. He has all that. And remember that Q posted July 2018, the month the world found out this is all about to come out. In the next couple of weeks, there's going to be some major stuff that's going to come out. We have someone in our Discord chat. Mr. Trump is going to be indicted. Well, I haven't heard anything about it. I don't think they've got anything to indict him on as far as that goes. So,
let me intervene on that, Chuck, real quick. Okay. To start with, they're saying they want to indict him because he met with the president of Russia. Now, any leader, I don't care who it is, every one of the leaders, we've got pictures in our newsroom of them, where it was rubbing arms, the president and the Clintons and the Obamas rubbing arms with Putin. Where are the people that were screaming treason and all this when they were doing it? Well, Trump went to them because he's trying to keep us from getting in a war. And this is what has left upset. Their whole agenda got blown out of the water. So that's what that is about. No. There's a lot of people that are trying to, it's left-wing news. That's all it is. Go ahead, Chuck.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, they don't have, again, like I said, they don't have anything to indict him on. They can't indict him for that. He's a president of the United States with foreign diplomats. They can't indict him for that. They're running scared.
He cannot be indicted anyway. He is a sitting president.
Exactly. They're running scared. They're going to indict the President Putin. They're running scared because of what President Putin gave to the President of the United States while he was over there. All right? They're running scared. They've got nothing. Nothing they've tried before has worked, and this isn't going to work either. Trump. Okay, believe it or not, and I'm talking at this point. I'm going to say one more thing here, and I'm talking at this point. In our audience, who are Christians, who are believers in the Lord Jesus Christ, and who understand the spiritual nature of this thing. The President Donald John Trump is anointed of God. He is God's anointed. He is God's chosen. United States right now. They had a 16-year plan to bring it fully and completely under the complete control by the year 2021. Obama was the first 8 years of that plan. They intended for Hillary to finish the job. And because of the prayers of his people, God stepped in and denied the enemy his timeline. The enemy's timeline denied. So this is God's agenda. It's not really what President Trump is doing right now. It's not really President Trump's agenda. It's God's agenda. God's got it in hand that thus far everything the Democrats have tried. Okay. To Trump 2020, we know about. Hearing me, but he's here in the chat. We know about weather modification and what have you. We know about all of that. Okay? Whatever the Democrats try, they're not going to succeed because this is God's agenda. They're running scared right now. And that's basically, Johnny, that is my part of the program for tonight. By the way, I'll just let you know, Johnny, Trump 2020 is wanting to come on voice with us. say.
Yeah.
It's all of this is about to come out. Whatever it was that President Putin gave the president and all that, this is all about to come out, and there's a lot of people thinking to go to jail. And I'll let Johnny do some elaborating on that. We've got another guest that's going to come on here and speak on a subject for a little bit, and so on and so forth. But that's basically my part of the program for at this point. When we come back to have our panel discussion or answer questions, I'll be back on it. But I'm going to turn it back over to Johnny for right now.
Okay, thank you, Chuck. Folks, what's going on right now in the government basically is they're trying to do a complete government overthrow, which we all know that. Now, at ICE, there was rioting, the cops, or not ICE, but the demonstrators, the cops didn't mess with them, they arrested them. Everything they're trying to do, they're going to stir up every false flag they can. They're going to do everything they can to get Trump out of office. Well, the Patriots, we stand with our president, we stand with our country, we stand with the Constitution. That's what we're about. And we stand together, united. There's a lot going on in this country, and there's a lot more news that's coming out. We have a lot of stuff that we have been able to get this last few days while we're putting this new radio show together. So for the little glitches, I apologize. We'll smooth out as we go and get used to what we're doing. But I do have a special guest. His name's Greg. He went up into Michigan. You've heard about the bad water up there and the corruption going on up there and the sick kids and everything. Well, he went up there, he did boots on the ground investigation, and he found other investigations out. He did other things about what's going on with water. I'm going to let him tell you about it. And this is an interesting man. He's got a lot of history behind him. But Greg also is writing a book, and it's very interesting. And in the near future, we are hoping he can do something about it, about getting it out for him. And we will do everything we can. You got something to say, Pete?
Yeah, I'm here, Johnny.
Okay. Anyway, Greg, I'm going to introduce you to Greg. Very influential man. And he's got a lot of information about the corruption that's going on up in Lansing area with the water up there and what's going on. And he was boots on the ground and investigated it. Did you ever get those tests back or anything, Gregory, on the water?
Yeah, no, we have not got the tests yet, but we will. And, yeah, just a quick rundown of what I found up there with the water. And it is true that kids are going to school and they're sick and they can't think. And, you know, I think it's important to go back to where this problem started. You know, the Democrats running the city, and they delivered these sealant protectors, I guess, that should have prevented this leaching. And, of course, they didn't ever use them because they said they didn't come with instructions. But the chief concern right now is this tainted water. Now, if you go to the government website, it says, oh, the water's fine and this and that. They have switched over to the new water treatment center. However, you know, they're dealing with this problem of these pipes, and I'm not sure exactly how old. I guess some of them are like 100 years old. But the lead pipes, which is a problem that I've been talking about for a long time, very bad for your health. We all know lead will kill you. So it's no surprise that that this is causing problems. But the sad part about it up there was that a lot of these really, you know, people at the lowest income, they didn't want to pay for bad water. They said, why should we have to pay to get poisoned? And they let the water bill go. And they were expected to pay it. So now they owe $1,000, you know, water bill. And so they can't pay it. So they're sitting there, even on the new water system, they can't get water because they owe the bill. The city government taxed on some huge fees. I'm not sure exactly how much. I'm told as much as $2,500 permit fees. Now these generally cost $4,000 to do pipe replacement because the pipes are just as big a problem as the water was. And so what we're finding is that a lot of people are not getting on the new system because they can't pay the water bill. And so the few places that are still offering water, they're using it to flush toilets and bathe and all this other thing. So they're going through a lot of water. So this is causing a problem there. And yeah, we are going. The state will not return the water test for a lot of people because they know some people, because of the pipes, are having this problem. The pipes are supposed to be slated to be changed out by the end of 2019. And they had one real good established company that was real good at doing it. They had a water boring system that located the pipes, and they finished their work in September. And they let a couple fly-by-nights that knew the right people start up, and I guess they're digging up everything just to find the pipes. But that's the biggest concern right now is that people, is getting these pipes replaced because even if you get onto the new system, there's still the same problem that they've got this tainted water from the pipe. So and of course, Debbie Stabenow, the Democrat, she took all the credit for getting the federal money, but now it's no help at all and getting these recent problems solved. She took all the credit, but she doesn't want to do any of the work. And so this is the problem they're facing generally up there with the water.
Okay. Talk a little bit about your book, so people will be looking forward to it when it comes out. Would you, Greg?
Yeah, American Watersheds. It's AmericanWatersheds.com. You can check it out. It's a college textbook, but it's written in comedy and entertainment because the kids really don't like the textbooks today. They're boring. But a lot of it, I'll stay with Flint a little bit as a theme. My grandfathers, my father, my parents, they were all from Flint. And my grandfather he organized the Flint sit-down, which is a horrible thing that they don't teach this in Michigan high school. They don't teach it in college. It was basically one of the most important historical events in American history because that one single sit-down strike gave birth to our middle class and civil rights and women's rights. American Watershed is a person who was in a time and place to change American history forever and make it a better country and make America great. And they just happened to be there at that time to change America politically or culturally. And so much of this has been rewritten, like the sit-down strike. You had two BBC companies came in and did the history, a total revisionist history. The real story is so unbelievable. It's a reason alone to buy American Watersheds, AmericanWatersheds.com. And one of the things that's really missing in history is the women patriots. It was kind of sad the Republicans couldn't name a single woman patriot from America other than Rosa Parks. And one said Margaret Thatcher, and I think one said Betty Ross. But my books are full of the great women American patriots and great civil rights leaders that are left out. So, but Flint, let's go back to Flint. And the sit-down strike basically was the same battle we're fighting today. My grandfather had to keep out the communists, had to keep out the organized crime, had to keep politics out of it. And it was basically a strike just for the right to work and get paid and be a human being. And they were, all the workers, the thousands and thousands of workers, had to take on an army, which was the Pinkertons, which was the Flint City Police, which was the Flint Alliance, which was a vigilante-type group, mercenaries, and they all had guns, and they were shooting. And the men and the women, basically, and the women were there too, and the women were a big, big part of the story. They won. They won against all those guns and all those police and all that because they just wanted to fight for the right to exist. So it's basically almost like a biblical event, and I hope everybody reads American Watersheds at least to get that story because it really is a great, great American event. It's called The Strike Heard Round the World, and it gave rise to all the unions. And so I got a lot of Flint, and because it's a music book, it could be American Watersheds who also changed the country culturally as well as politically. So we got a lot of Flint in there. We got some Mark Farner, a great American patriot. Everybody knows Grand Funk Railroad. But Mark has always been a strong, strong patriot. I've known him for 30 years, and just a great guy and a great representation of Flint. And also a lot in there about Dick Wagner, which many of you may know from if you've listened to Alice Cooper records or Lou Reed Rock and Roll Animal or the first Peter Gabriel record. He was a great, great songwriter and guitar player. One of the greatest guitar songs like Only Women Bleed and Roland. Aerosmith. And so Flint's very rich in musical and but also in political history. It's been a great city to. We all should appreciate the history that came out of there. Also went on to be the first president of the Teamsters. He was the president of all unions based on Martin and Beer and the printing press wrote newspapers. The new trains. He said, I could use these trains and get these new things who we elect. So so he wanted an outsider populist candidate, and he had Andrew, the first celebrity. So he made him into a celebrity, and we follow the history of media. My grandfather, Dale Clark, also built the first cable company in Michigan in 1954, the third cable company ever built. And we talk about how they use fake news and telegraphs to get the workers out. It could have been telling the wife that the husbands were cheating, and that's how the women got organized. The women's brigade actually got organized around fake news. They were told that the men were cheating down there and all this and that. Well, found out it wasn't true, and that's how they formed their brigade, and they became a big part of the story. But this fake media thing that we've had, it's been going on for a long, long time. They would send these telegraphs saying your father died, your wife died. I mean, any horrible thing, just like the media today, any horrible you'd say that wasn't true, they would do that. So it's also a history of media and takes us in through modern media. Also, last year's election, the last chapter of book 2 really goes into an in-depth what really happened in 2016 and being part of political movements and being kind of the king of Facebook. I watched everything, and a lot of people are writing books about what happened. No one knows what happened. I know exactly what happened. I inspired the DNC protest. I was there every step of the way. So it's a book of history, but it's also a book of faith, because I don't think we can separate the two, and we need to get God back into colleges too. So we're planning on a college lecture tour. It covers science. It basically covers every single curriculum, from psychology to sociology, history, all these different things. So yeah, it's a great talk about Flint, but it's very sad what's going on up there. And we need to get these water bills paid. We need to get these pipes replaced. And hopefully we move in that direction, because it's very sad what's going on up there, especially for the children. Go ahead, Johnny.
Okay, folks. I find it quite interesting, because it was in the news for a long time, and all of a sudden it dropped out, and we started hearing about it again. But part of the reason I bring it up, this is something that the United Constitutional Patriot Group actually gets involved in when there's people being done wrong. We are constitutionalists 100%. We not only have the largest group in the country, but we have our purpose is to help the American people when they're in trouble. We have people on border ops. We have people that do bodyguard work. We have people that go down when there's hurricanes, tornadoes. We help the people that are in trouble. We raise everything from food to money for people when they need it. They're in trouble. Now, as we go along on this, we'll be talking a lot about the Patriot movements and stuff on discussions. Everybody, I welcome everybody's opinion, but everybody's opinions always don't agree with each other. That is no reason to have any arguments, fights, or anything else. We keep it civil. The one thing that I do know is that we're there for the American people. That's our purpose. This station that we're doing on right now, our radio on YouTube, this is so we can reach the American people and give them the news as we get it. We will be on Fridays, or Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays at 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock New Mexico time. We have our staff that are strung out nationwide that are on here. And I want to thank everybody for being here tonight. I want to thank you, Chuck. I want to thank you for being here, Copperhead, Pete, Greg. I want to thank everybody for being here, and we will be back on the air Monday, 6 o'clock our time. In the meantime,
Johnny, one more thing. Hey, Johnny, can I say one more thing?
Yeah.
This is what you're saying. You got to understand, they originally tried to have the first strike to try and get worker rights in 1934, and my grandfather was organized that. Now, this whitewash BBC special, the Ruthers rewrote the whole story because they were enemies of my grandfather because he hated communists, and they wanted a one-world revolution just like the one-world government we have today. And I think it's important for us to know our history because how did they succeed? See, in 1934, President Roosevelt came to my grandfather and his guys, and he said, the country just can't handle it at this moment. He said, if I get the politics straight, if we can get, he got the Wagner Act in 1935, which allowed the emergence of the unions. So a lot of things had to be put in place, and he said, you guys are jumping the gun, but if you if you'll shut it down, then we can do it again in 36. They did it again in 36, 37. But I think that the point that I'm making here is that it takes a group like your group, like our group, plus a president. That's how you succeed. And right now,
she's got her do not disturb light on. Back, I'll tell her, honey. I promise.
Anyway, yeah. So basically, that's it. Is that basically it requires the people, we the people, and a president, just like it did back in 1934 and 36, 37. And now we have the unique opportunity that we have a president that actually cares and actually listens. And so that is the blessing. And I believe, just like Chuck, and I can actually prove this, I proved this in book 3, that God, the God of the universe, is involved in this. And I can prove that to any person. I have the proof. But anyway, yeah, I just wanted to throw that in, that it takes those two things.
Okay, I appreciate it. Does anybody else want to add anything to this before we close the show out for the evening?
No, Johnny, not in this show. Maybe the next show I'll do some.
Okay, and I want to thank you folks that joined us, and we look forward to have a fair share of this show. Let's get it out. We need to get it to the people so they know what is going on. The information we get is not mainstream news. We get our information from sources out of Washington. We get our information from other sources that's been vetted. We do not put anything out that is not vetted or is not fact. So, and Copperhead, you said it right. We fight for the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, nothing personal or religious. We are there for the American people to protect your rights as Americans. If you have a birth certificate or if you are illegal, hey, that is one thing. But if it's like coming across the border illegally, hey, if you can't do it legal, you don't belong here. All it does is takes the work from the American people and the bigger burden on the United States. So we will do what we can. But as together, we stand together united, we fight together united, we live together united, and under one God, we are all united under God. So God bless you all. You have a good evening, and we will be back on the air Monday night. And until then, God bless you.
Thank everybody for watching the Constitutional Patriots channel. We will be back on again, like Johnny said, and hope to see a lot more people on there. Thank you, and have a great night.